It is the week of Spider-Man No Way Home. What's going on, guys? I'm Chris and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be giving you my final predictions for Spider-Man No Way Home. The movie comes out, the world premiere is tomorrow. It comes out wide release to the public on Thursday, December 16th, and then everyone will see it on Friday or Saturday or this weekend. So I'm going to give you my final predictions. It's a movie we've been talking about for months now. So I have a few final predictions that I'm going to stick with and hope that they're right, and if they're not, that's fine. I'm just going to be enjoying the experience nonetheless. But before I give you guys my final predictions for No Way Home, make sure to hit that like button, drop your predictions in the comments down below, and make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you know I'm starting any future reviews, videos, No Way Home coverage. Without further ado, I'm going to get into some of my predictions for this movie. The first one is going to be that Doc Ock is a good guy. Now, I've made theory videos on this in the past, but here's my theory. It boils down to this. We see him on the opening bridge fight, and he ends up getting some Stark tech on him. I think that he's going to end up snapping out of it not long after that, because in the trailers and various pieces of footage, we see images of Doc Ock looking fairly calm, like he's not very hostile, and if you watch Spider-Man 2, he is a good person at the beginning of the movie. He's working on his fusion project, and it turns on him once the inhibitor chip in the back of his neck cracks, so the arms actually take control of him. So of course he's going to be a villain when the arms have control of him, and then at the end of the movie, he says, "I will not die a monster." Now my assumption would be that he shows up in this movie, he's obviously going to be pulled from a part of the timeline where he's probably more so a villain, so I'm thinking maybe during the train sequence or any time where his inhibitor chip is intact. So I think that's how he's going to get pulled out. However, I think the Stark tech in some way, shape, or form is going to snap him out of that, and then once he realizes that the Peter Parker he sees is Tom Holland's Peter Parker and not Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker, he's not going to have as much of a vendetta against that character, and he's going to come back to reality and be like, okay, I just want to get home, hence No Way Home. It might be about the villains not being able to find their way home. So I think that he's going to end up being good, and honestly, he could be edited out of the final battle scene, which is what I'm assuming is going to be the final battle that we see in the trailer where it's a showdown where villains are going against Tom Spidey. We'll talk about that shot more in a second, but I do think Doc Ock will end up being good in this movie because he truly isn't a villain at his core. He just becomes a product of the downfall of his life's work. So I really don't see him being a villain in this movie. That's one prediction. The next prediction I have is that Electro is actually from Tom Holland's universe. Now, I have a few pieces of evidence to back this up. First of all, we've seen variants of characters in Loki. There's a ton of Loki variants out in the universe. So it makes sense that Jamie Foxx played the version in the 2014 TASM 2 movie, as well as the version in No Way Home, even if they're different characters. Now, aside from that, the character design is vastly different. In TASM 2, obviously Electro is blue, and he's got a lot of energy focused on him, and even when he isn't in that blue form, the character of Max Dillon already looks kind of nerdy and goofy, as opposed to the man Jamie Foxx in this movie, who has a massive redesign. He looks like he's got a nice fade, nice hairline, everything's going for him. He looks very suave, as well as the fact that his electricity is yellow, and he actually has Stark technology. So it would make sense that this version of Electro, this variant of Electro, he's been waiting for the right time to strike in Peter Parker, Tom Holland's universe, because the moment for him to strike could just be the spell going wrong and everything going into chaos. He could be coming out of hiding and he could finally have a plan. Now, at the same time, I understand this would kind of defeat the purpose of having multiversal villains coming from different universes, but in a way, they're still giving us Doc Ock and Goblin, so those are probably going to be from their respective universes, Lizard as well as Sandman. So I think Electro, or at least one of the villains, is actually just going to be a person from Tom's universe who is a variant. So the next bold prediction I have is that everyone is talking about how Tobey and Andrew are going to be in this movie, but no one's talking about how Miles Morales could be in this movie, and that is my prediction. We're either going to see Miles in a post-credit scene or in the actual film itself. It's been hinted at. If you look and see the trucks and different signs, Feast is hinted at, and that's obviously associated with Miles. So that's obviously a big hint as to how he could show up in this movie. But the fact that it is such a massive scale and they're really hyping up the multiverse makes me believe that they are going to set up Miles in this movie to have a role down the road. He's already a prominent Marvel character. Everyone loves the Spider-Verse films. We just got a trailer for Across the Spider-Verse, so the hype for this character is real. On top of the fact that the Miles Morales video game is a massive hit, they're going to need to bring this character into live action sooner rather than later, and I think this would be the perfect opportunity to at least plant the seeds for his arrival into the MCU down the road, and I think we're going to see him, whether that's a post-credit scene or in that final battle. Book it right now, Miles Morales will be in this movie. My next prediction is that Venom shows up in this movie. Now, there's going to be spoilers for Venom 2, the post-credit scene, if you have not seen it, but here we go. In the end of that post-credit scene, Venom is obviously affected by the spell that goes wrong in No Way Home, at least that's our interpretation of it, and we see him transported to a universe where Tom Holland's Spider-Man is on the television, and Venom looks like he has something against him, because at the end of that movie, Venom is trying to be a vigilante hero in the media, and Tom Holland's Spider-Man is being portrayed as a villain by the media in that. So it only makes sense that Venom is trying to go after him because of his perception of Tom being a villain. So I think that's kind of where we're going there. I don't know if this will be a post-credit scene or a minor scene. Honestly, I think it would make sense that Venom goes after him in this movie. I don't know why they would put that post-credit scene in there if he's not going to go after him in No Way Home. There's also been pictures of Tom Hardy with a No Way Home set hat, so I think Tom Hardy is in this movie in some way, shape, or form as Venom. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he shows up in that final battle where all of the different characters seem to be appearing. I think that would be awesome, and it would be so dope, especially if they throw in a joke with a Tobey Maguire saying, "You're not Eddie Brock." But speaking of Tobey and Andrew, I mean, I think they're in this movie 100%. And if they're not in the movie, everyone, including me, will be massively disappointed because they literally have all of the villains from their films coming back. There have been supposed leaks online that kind of confirm that they're in the movie in a sense, depending on the way you want to look at it. So in a way, I do think they are confirmed for this movie. If you watch interviews with Andrew Garfield, he's doing his best to withhold the information, but he's a damn good actor for a reason, and I feel like he definitely could be playing it off very well. It's really clear to me they're in this movie. They wouldn't bring back Willem Dafoe as Green Goblin, Alfred Molina's Doc Ock, the Lizard, Sandman, and Electro if they're not going to bring back the Spider-Man who fought those villains in those movies. It only makes sense that we see them at some point. Tom Holland has said this is the coming together of 3 generations of Spider-Man. They're in this movie. There is no doubt in my mind, and I think it's going to be on par with, if not better, than the moment where the portal sequence happens in Endgame. That was fulfilling, but the thing about it was, we knew they were coming up. We knew they were going to come back in some way, shape, or form, but this is something that we never thought we would see in our lives. As we're bringing back past Spider-Man who have had the role hung up for years. They have not been in the ring as Spider-Man for so long. Notably Tobey Maguire, who hasn't took on the role since 2007, and it's been since 2014 for Andrew Garfield. So it only makes sense that this generates almost as much hype as Avengers Endgame, if not more, because a lot of people have a deep connection with Spider-Man that didn't have with some of those characters in Avengers Endgame. So I think this movie is going to have the best crowd reaction ever. They're all going to show up in the final battle, if not beforehand, and then they just pull up at the final battle, but it's going to be one of those theater rocking moments. Now this prediction is a little more out there. I just wanted to give myself a fun one that's probably not going to happen, but I do think there's a slim chance that we could see Emma Stone as Gwen Stacy and Kirsten Dunst as MJ. I know there have been speculations online, oh, they're not going to be in the movie. I do think that it would be a really cool cameo for them to show up, but at the same time, they're probably not going to. That's kind of grasping at straws. It's very unlikely. And then my extra out there prediction that is not going to happen, but would be absolutely hype if it did, is that we will see Deadpool in this movie. It only makes sense that Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool comes in at some point in time. If not in this, I want to say in Multiverse of Madness he will show up. But if Deadpool shows up and we see him interact with Spider-Man, that would be insanely cool. But my final prediction is that this movie will end on a massive cliffhanger. I think this will be a bigger cliffhanger than the Far From Home post-credit scene and a bigger cliffhanger than Avengers Infinity War when Thanos snaps away half of humanity. I genuinely believe that this will be one of the bigger cliffhangers ever, and it will play directly into Multiverse of Madness, likely setting up Tobey and Andrew to show up in Multiverse of Madness, because they wouldn't just bring them back for no reason, especially Tobey Maguire, with Sam Raimi, his former director in the Raimi trilogy, coming back to direct Multiverse of Madness, as well as Danny Elfman composing the score for those films. It only makes sense that Tobey comes back for a little bit more. I could see Andrew donning the role a few more times as well, so I could see this becoming a big Spider-Verse saga, resetting the MCU, something that it deeply needs, in my opinion, to really kind of reset everything back to square one, bring in the Fantastic Four and the X-Men, and make it make sense. I think Multiverse of Madness is going to be the movie to do that, but this is the predecessor to Multiverse of Madness that's kind of going to set everything up for the stakes to be extremely high come May 2022 when we finally get Multiverse of Madness. With a movie called No Way Home and Doctor Strange, with speculation of all these characters coming back, there's no doubt in my mind it's going to be an insane theatrical experience, and a lot of these things could come true, a lot could not come true. No matter what happens, I'm going to enjoy the hell out of this movie. But what are your predictions for this movie? Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss out on any future Spider-Man No Way Home videos, Hawkeye videos, all the Marvel coverage. You're going to find it here on the Film Stock channel, as well as TikTok. All my social medias are linked down below. But I am so pumped for this movie. It's only a few more days till we all get to sink our teeth into it finally and get another entry in the Spider-Man saga, perhaps the most epic movie in the MCU. Thank you guys again for watching, and until next time, I'll see you guys later.